Hi, second graders. It's Mr. Holly. Hope all my kind cavaliers are having a good week. Wish I was in the classroom with you guys, but I hope this is working out the best it can. On Monday, we went over a science experiment and we talked about some geometry for math, two-dimensional and three-dimensional shapes. You see, I have it listed here. This is the video for Wednesday, May 6th, 2020. It's good to see you guys again. Remember, if you have questions about anything, you can always contact me, have your parents message me, or they can call me on my Google Voice number. Either one. Today, first, I want to just do a quick review of the things I taught on Monday. So you'll notice first I have listed here math, 2D and 3D shapes. Remember that two-dimensional shapes are the shapes that only have length and width. So on my poster here, the two-dimensional shapes are the first two rows. Squares, squares, rectangles, circles, triangles, pentagons, hexagons, octagons. They're the ones that we can draw easily on paper, and they're the ones that we can easily cut out of paper. The three-dimensional shapes, sorry for the glare on the poster, I'm going to bring it a little closer to you guys. The three-dimensional shapes are the ones that have length, width, and height. So, cube, sphere, cylinder, cone, rectangular prism, and pyramid. And we name a pyramid by the face on the base. So a square pyramid has a square base. A triangular pyramid would have a triangular base. A rectangular pyramid would have a rectangular base. Okay? So two-dimensional shapes, only length and width. Three-dimensional shapes have length, width, and height. So they have thickness. There's an example of a cylinder right here. It has length and width, and it also has height. 3 dimensions. One of the activities that they want you to do this week is to do an experiment with your three-dimensional shapes, the ones you find around the house. Now, what I'm going to ask that you please do is anything you find, first get parent permission to do the experiment, because what they're asking you to do is to see if they roll or slide, and especially if they're decorations or things that your parents collect around the house. I don't want you to accidentally break something. So if it's something that's your parents, make sure you get permission first before you try to roll it or slide it. I would suggest you do it on a flat surface like a floor, but for my demonstration I'm going to do today, I'm just going to use a small whiteboard, and I'm going to also use some of my models, my three-dimensional shape models. That way you can see it in the video and I don't have to move the laptop around. But for you at home, a nice flat hardwood floor, linoleum floor, tiled floor would be good. You could probably do it on a carpet too, just gonna not roll as easily or slide as easily. So those are some choices. Also on Monday, I noticed in my box of models that I didn't have a sphere. Well, I found a decoration in our house that looks like a sphere. My wife has these little decorative um, balls in the house that look like this. She has different colors. This would be a good example of an object around the house that is a sphere. It's not really a ball, it's decorative. You can see it's made out of like wicker. It's almost wooden. But this would be an example of a sphere. So a sphere is ball shaped. Now, again, the activity they want you to do is to make a list of which things slide and roll. I'm not going to do all of them. I want you to see for yourself from the objects you have around your house. But I am going to just show you an example of how you could do this activity. So what I have here is a little whiteboard that I'm going to use as like a tray. And I'm going to start with this cylinder. If I put it on my whiteboard and I give it a push, when it's sitting like this, it will slide. However, if I put it on the round surface and I start it down here, it will also roll. So the cylinder can do both. Here I have an example of a cone. Again, if I set it on its base and I push it, it can slide. If I put it on its side, it will roll, but notice it doesn't roll like the cylinder does. It rolls in a circle. It will not roll straight back and forth the way the cylinder did. It rolls in a circle because of the way it's shaped. If I try a cube, again, this is a cube because all of the sides are exactly the same size and length. If I take the cube and I put it on my whiteboard and I push it, it will slide. But obviously, because of the flat sides, flat surfaces that are called faces, it won't roll. Okay? I'm going to do those three for you and model them. I want you to try some of the other shapes you find around your house and see what you can get them to do. I'm really curious to see what you get to have happen with a sphere. Since this is decorative, I don't want to break this on my wife. So I'm not going to try to roll this, especially on this. But if you have an example of a sphere at home, I want you to see what you can get that to do. Does it slide? Does it roll? Okay. So those are our 3D shapes and one of the math activities that they're asking you to do, I believe, for Friday. So I just wanted to model the type of experimenting and challenging that we're having you do for that math activity. The other math activity that they have you work on is working with tangrams. Now I have some examples of tangrams right up here on our whiteboard. I use the exact same sheet that comes in your packet and I cut out the exact same shapes. Now what I did is I also took some of the scrap that was left over and I made myself a rectangle, a large rectangle, just to have a rectangle as one of the shapes. Okay? Now, most of the tangrams, as you can see, are triangles, but there are There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different triangles of different sizes. We do have a square, and they made this shape. This shape is a quadrilateral. Quadrilateral means four-sided. And this one's known as a parallelogram. It's called a parallelogram because the sides are parallel to each other. It's almost a diamond shape. Okay? One of the activities they want you to do, just like I did, they want you to cut out these shapes. And then they want you to try to make something called a composite shape. I'll write that word for you. Composite. Composite shape is just a shape that is made out of other shapes. When you take other shapes and combine them together to make one shape, that shape you make is called a composite shape. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to model making a couple of the composite shapes. Excuse me. And again, I wanted to model it using the exact same tangrams that you have from the package sheet. So I literally cut the package sheet out, and I'm using the same ones you do. To put them on the whiteboard, I'm just using some magnet counters to hold the paper to the whiteboard. So the first shape I'm going to put down is a rectangle. That's the one that I made for myself out of the scrap paper from the sheet, just so I have it. Okay? So you might want to do the same thing. Make yourself a rectangle too. Then I'm going to take the large triangle and set it a little off center here. So a little bit of the first corner sticks over the edge of the rectangle. Now I'm going to take one of the small triangles and set it right next to the corner of the large triangle on top of the rectangle. I'm going to take another small triangle, the other one we have, and I'm going to place that one in between the two triangles, like that. I'm starting to notice an outer shape that looks kind of like a house. So if I want to put a chimney on my house, I take the square, set it on top of the other triangle I just put down, and that makes the chimney. Now I've made a house. My composite shape that I made from these pieces made a shape that looks like a house. You can experiment with these and try some of your own, see what you can make. I made a shape that looks like a building this time. Let's see if I can make something that looks like an animal. I'm going to pull all my shapes off to the side so I have a nice clean workspace. I will have to get that magnet. Now, let's see if I can make a shape that looks like an animal. So start with one of the large triangles. and put the other one right underneath it. I use the two triangles to make one very large triangle. Now I'm going to take the medium-sized triangle and stick it here like this. I'm also going to borrow the parallelogram and put that trying to think. I'll have to turn it to its white side to get it the way I want it this time. Put that one like this. Sorry if you can't see it very well. I had to turn it backwards to get it to fit the way I wanted it to. I'm going to take the two smaller triangles and stick them up here like so. See if I can make this one be on its colored side. Still do the same thing I wanted it to. Yeah, like this. And then I have my square here. I'm just going to use the magnet from the rectangle. And if I stick this out here, if you look closely, that kind of takes the shape of a fish. So using your Tangram sheet, I would like you to try to see what kind of composite shapes you can make. And as you can see, you don't have to use all the pieces for all your composite shapes. Use as many as you can, see how many you can make with as few as you can, and come up with some other shapes. As you saw, I was able to put the two triangles together to make one larger composite triangle. And then with all the other pieces on it, now it looks kind of like a fish. So give it a try, see what you can make. Let me move these out of the way. All right. The other thing you need to remember to do this week is to continue to do your daily scientific observations of your germ experiment. If you remember, on Monday, I discussed how to take your bags that are marked clean and dirty and put a piece of bread in each one. But before you put the bread in it, clean hands, touch one piece of bread. You notice this one's marked clean. So this is the one I touched after I washed my hands. And then in another bag, touch the bread with dirty hands and put a piece of bread in. One thing I would suggest is that you use the same type of bread for the experiment. So if you do white bread for the clean, do white bread for the dirty. If you only have wheat bread, use wheat bread for both. If you switch up the wheat and white, I'm not sure if that will affect how the bread might change. So don't change that variable in your experiment. Try to use the same type for both. So a good scientist will pull out that little sheet that we have in our packet for our daily observations. And what you're going to do is you're going to look, see if you notice any changes to the bread inside the bag. Turn it around. Happens that with this piece, I use the heel. Do I notice anything changing on the heel side, the crust side? Do I notice anything changing on the lighter side? If I don't notice anything, I can just be a good scientist and write looks the same so far. But keep doing this over a week. Eventually, you should start seeing changes on some of the bread. And just describe what you see. Are you starting to see like some black spots? Touch the bread through the bag. Does it feel like it's getting stiff and stale? Or does it still feel soft, like when you first put the bread in the bag? So those are the kind of scientific observations I want you to make on your science observation sheet for this week. The other thing that they want that we're asking you to do is to just think about how can you keep your home clean during this time. We're all thinking, unfortunately, a lot more about germs right now. That's part of the reason why we chose this as some of our science. What can you do at home to help keep you and your house clean? There's a little paper there that you can write some of the ideas you have about what you can do to help keep your home and yourself clean from germs. Does anybody, if you have any questions about anything, remember you can ask. Um, just a reminder or just a message to you guys also. I know I've been missing you guys. I would like to see all of you. I chose to do the pre-recorded videos because I knew it would be easier for your families. Many of you have brothers and sisters that are still in school also in different grade levels. And if I did Zoom meetings for all of my teaching, I might end up teaching at the same time as sister's fourth grade teacher or brother's eighth grade teacher or whatever. And then someone would have to miss their teaching time. And with Zoom meetings, where you usually don't record them. So that means if you miss it, you've missed it. So, and you can't go back and watch it. So that's why I chose to do the pre recorded recordings. But I do miss seeing my students, and I do miss having you guys chat with each other. So I sent a Class Dojo message out, and if your parents aren't linked to Class Dojo, I will be sending an email message out to all the parents about something that I would like to start this Thursday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon called the Kind Calves Chat. What I'm going to do is set up a Zoom meeting. I'm sending the instructions on how to, or the information to log on to the meeting to all your parents. If you have time Thursday afternoon at 1 p.m., this will be a chance for us to kind of hang out together. You'll get to see some of your classmates. You'll get to see me. We can chat. Bring any questions you have about any of your assignments, and I will be more than happy to answer them. Remember what I always said in the classroom. If you have a question about something, there's most likely at least 3 other people in the class that have that same question. They're not brave enough to ask it. So if something doesn't make sense or you don't understand something, feel free to bring that question with you to our Kind Calves Chat Thursday. If there are no assignment questions, we'll just kind of talk to each other about how things are going and just have a nice, friendly chat. I might even have a book that I will read to you during that time. It'll be kind of like what we used to do at snack time in school, when I would share a story and you guys could kind of just chat with each other until it was time to get ready for specials. So check out have your parents look for the information about the Kind Calves chat. I'm going to do that every Thursday, every week from now on at 1 p.m. I have it lasting for 15 minutes. If it seems like we want to hang out a little longer, I'll let it go longer. And if it seems like it's only me and a couple other people and we've chatted and we want to end it a little earlier, we'll do that too. So it's not a mandatory meeting. This is a chance for you to see your teacher and to see some of your classmates, talk to each other, see how things are going, and just help us to realize that our classroom family is still hanging in there. Okay? So, Kind Calves Chat, Thursday, 1 p.m. And just remember that this week, our main focus, I'm going to try to always have it up here on the whiteboard for math, the geometry, two-dimensional and three-dimensional shapes. Science, we're learning about germs. Remember to keep doing your daily observations about the bread. And also, after watching the Mystery Doug videos, um, think about what you can do at home to help with keeping yourself safe from germs. Don't forget your little activity with the Tangrams. Try to see what kind of composite shapes you can make. And also with your solid figures, your 3D shapes, do a quick experiment seeing which ones slide and which ones roll. And as I showed you with my little activity, you might have a couple that can do both. Again, any questions about anything I just taught, you can message me, you can call me. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I miss all my Kind Cavaliers. And go Cavs. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy.